So my name is David Molander, and I'm a visual artist working primarily with photo and animated films. And I'm really happy to be here today, and I'm gonna talk to you about one of my projects that I've been doing, and perhaps show you really fast a couple of seconds of some other projects. So this view that you see on the screen is something I saw 3 years ago in 2013, a very rainy November afternoon. And I was standing on top of this building on top of a mountain constructed out of 15,000 destroyed buildings, all brought there by women. And I was trying to film this building with a radio-controlled camera drone with a video camera on, while a couple of dogs were running around my legs belonging to the gang that controls this area. And that was a point when I realized that this is one of the most important urban spaces that really both is a focal point but also mirroring the city of Berlin and its different changes, and it tells a lot about how we build the cities that we live in and why. So we are in the forest of Grünewald. That's a forest to the southwest of Berlin, and it was there before the city was founded, and it used to be a place to grow food and a place to train armies, and a place where the citizens of Berlin are walking their dogs and having picnic these days. And it's a pretty beautiful area, but what you don't think about if you don't know it when you're there is that this mountain that is Berlin's tallest mountain, Teufelsberg, or the Devil's Mountain, is constructed out of the destroyed city of Berlin from 1945 that was bombed to pieces by mainly by the Soviet artillery. So what you see here is the stairs leading up to this place, and the stairs are made from pavement stones from the old city of Berlin. And this forest is also rummaged by wild boars, and every time I'm there I've met a couple of them or heard them, and it's always wakes you up a little bit. And what they do is they shovel around the dirt, and the layer of soil is pretty thin, so you could see parts of the different buildings' surface in different locations. And I was also able to get some footage from an excavation that was testing the poisons that comes out of these old artillery pieces. So you see a shaft here where you can also see how thin the layers of soil is before you start seeing the different buildings. And all of this was actually put on top of the military academy designed by Albert Speer. So that military academy is still below this mountain. And when you come to the top, you are greeted by this radar station, and it's actually an American building, and it's used to monitor the Eastern Bloc during the Cold War. And when the wall came down, the army just left pretty fast. And today it is a place where a lot of different creative outlets are happening. There's a lot of demolition, but also a lot of street art. There's film shoots, rave parties. People used to dump trash that was expensive to get rid of. And a lot of commercials are recorded there. And it used to be a kind of a free zone where you could go and find a place that was outside the regulations of the city of Berlin. And as you can see today, there's a lot of tourists that comes there to take photographs and to look at the different street art. And it's a constant stream of different images and texts and artworks that are appearing and commenting on each other, and then they're painted over and something else is showing up. So every time you're there, it's going to look different. So it's a big three-dimensional canvas, basically. And the thing is that this was a place built for communication, to gather signals from the Eastern Bloc and pass it on to Washington. And I was showing this project in Washington when a guy afterwards came up to me, and he was a researcher at the Air and Space Museum. And he told me that this building was really built by the NSA and by NASA as one of the first nodes in the Echelon projects for satellite communications. And this is the top dome the way it looked when I was there to take photographs. And what you hear is the sound that I recorded in there, and it's 19 seconds reverb since they removed the radar equipment. So it's a place that is interesting also for sound engineers and for musicians, and also for tourists that, as you can hear, produce their own sounds but also records it. And they also, all the tourists document this place. And I thought that was really important to kind of use the material that you can also find online, and not just have my images in this big image, and make use of the representation that you can find everywhere else. So what I did is I used some materials from different blogs and from photographic inventories that you can find online. There's plenty of these websites where you can kind of pan around your own axis. So in this case, I could find a 360-degree view of the top dome before it was whitewashed, as you can see here in this version. So I don't mind using other people's images if it's, in this case, suits my purposes. And I also left some of the artifacts from that, as you can see here, is from one of the panoramic sites with the different controls. So I basically just took screenshots, and at one point I was going to erase these traces, but then I thought that I might as well leave them in, since this is such a fragmented image, and it's pretty obvious that this is not a it's not a photographic sketch of this space. I mean, people have been asking me if I kind of made the structure, and this, someone like, yeah, it's funny that you made this phallic structure on top of the mountain, but this is actually how it looks. But the thing is, I could select what I want to choose. So what I do is I come to a place and I research it. I spend a lot of time there. I go back in different seasons and in different occasions, and I speak to people that use the place sometimes. And I go into a space like this and start scanning the walls with photographs, and also recording film clips and sound. So this is nothing I kind of built myself. This is a representation of how this floor looked, even though it would be covered by a wall. So I can kind of select what layers I want to choose. And in this case, I wanted to put focus on these kind of elements that are very similar in structure, but at the same time they're painted by different artists and a multitude of artists. So I just wanted to show the different floors in this case. And as you can see, there's also a lot of horizontal lines in the background. So it's very artificial, but from my viewpoint, it's also very documentary. And all of this was shot kind of in the same autumn day, because I thought the colors worked best for that. And I mean, this is a place that I find there's a lot of irony to it, because it used to be a place built for communication, but the only functioning piece of equipment that the American Army left that still works today are these two industrial-sized paper shredders. And they can still be used, and this is a sound that emanates from them. And they can still chew up documents into a kind of paper foam. And the buildings are covered by this bulletproof glass that someone has been writing things on, and then someone else has smashed the glass. So I found this a link also between this kind of paper foam in here that's destroyed documents, but also the glass that's been destroyed with the texts on. So this is a standalone piece that's kind of made with a frame of the bulletproof glass that covers these two paper shredders. And sometimes they use them for confetti machines for the rave parties that they have out there. And when I was there, there's kind of caretakers of this place that charges tourists to come in, because there's not really adjusted for tourists. So you're escorted by guards when you come in, and you have to pay. And you have to follow a specific path, because there's no ledges, and there's really holes in different places where you can fall down like 5 floors, and there's asbestos, and so they're there to protect you in some way, and it's cheaper for the city of Berlin to have these guys that also lives in this area. And last time I was there, they had built houses in the trees also where they lived, and it's cheaper for the city of Berlin, that's pretty poor, to have these guys controlling the area and charging and protecting tourists than to have a private guard company or something like that. Just a little side note, they also wanted to build luxury condos, and it's hard to make out here on the projected screen, but it says Resort Teufelsberg here. But it was something that was never realized, and also the filmmaker and artist David Lynch started building a spiritual center here. But I'm gonna show you a little film clip from my camera drone footage here. So the people that are in control of this place really wanted me. When I came there, I had a camera drone, and I realized that I couldn't afford paying the kind of price that you would do if you're a production company that's going to make a commercial. So I had to ask them if I could use my camera drone, and they started making phone calls, and in the end I could talk to the guy who was highest in command there, and he immediately said that, perfect, we need that, so I'm going to come over. And he came with a car 20 minutes later, and me and my sound guy was there for the entire afternoon and had to go to their apartment in Wedding to download the footage in the end of the night. But they also drove us around and gave us access everywhere, because mainly they wanted us to film this huge QR code that you can see up here. And the reason for that is because when you fly in over Berlin, you see Teufelsberg. It's very flat, and you can access their website if you use your cell phone. So I saw that as, I work with layers. I go into a place physically, I take photos in layers. I work in Photoshop and After Effects with layers, and I also work with historical and conceptual layers, in the sense that this place, Grünewald, was there before the city of Berlin, then this mountain from the Second World War, the structure from the Cold War that's also been kind of evolved as the city of Berlin, with when it was like an open free zone, and then commercialized with different developments, and then also taken over by different creative forces, but now in the end also a highly commercialized space with this big QR code as kind of a symbol on the roof. And this zoomable image is from my website, so it's something you can access if you have Wi-Fi. So I always try to make my works into that. And I also want to show you how I present my works. So let's see if I can do that here. Because to a large extent, I work mostly in the computer digitally, even though I'm out in the field to some extent. But then I work a lot digitally, but I also work a lot with the presentation of the works. So in this case, this is an exhibition I made in a paint factory in Stockholm. And I also always take film clips. I work with video works. And on this very uneven wall, I projected a moving piece from the same material as you just saw at Teufelsberg. So I'm gonna scooch ahead here so you can see it. So this is a projection made with 4 projectors, and it's probably 120 feet or something like that. And I'm just filming this with my cell phone camera here, just to show you a very simple animated piece on this wall with covered windows that also breaks up the image, as you can see. And I made this into a book format and into the large zoomable and panable image that I have online. So I try to also work a lot with presentation. So just very, very briefly, because I'm coming to the end of my presentation for this time around. This is another piece that I made about the city center in Stockholm, a highly controversial place that they're now tearing down, and the first example of Swedish modernism. You can see this on my website, and I could talk probably for about 2 hours about this piece, but I'm not going to do that right now. This is another piece from New York, Lower East Side, when they were rebuilding the street and popped a water hydrant at the middle of the night. So the entire place was flooded. I also have this as a moving piece. And you can see it at the Kennedy School that have the piece on the wall there. This is another about 5 points that used to be in Queens. This building that they whitewashed, and it used to be the most historical building for graffiti in the world. So I'm gonna conclude there and say that I'm here to learn from and with this institution and to work with the material that emanates from the GSD. And I'm really gonna start pretty soon. In the end of September, I'm gonna do a workshop with students. We're gonna start mapping this building. But I'm also very interested in all the materials that you work with and to be a part of that. So I look forward to have an exchange and to engage with as many of you as possible. And I'm very interested in different ideas and projects that's going on here. And to hopefully make a couple or at least some artworks during my year here. Thank you so much for listening.